I quit giving a crap about rap. Be back with this is poetry, something that they can't take back. Write ascension, 19 hours and 15 lyrics. Declination, 50 degrees, 16 spirits. From carbon I came, to carbon I return. It seems like ridicule is all that I've earned. Black lithium clouds, maritime meridian bound. Rap music, look how silly it sounds.
You already know who it is. I'm on asharenu back in this bitch once again to speak the realest shit on the planet. Maybe even get the universe as a whole. Let's humble ourselves. What's good, everybody? So, I'm gonna speak about some real hip hop today. You know? Let me turn this shit up. Hold on. What's up? What's up, Moon Spirit? What's up, Aiden? Put this over here. What's up, Marvin and Magi? What's the deal? What's the deal? I've released thousands of tracks, received plaques. None of that matters. I wanna believe that. My pressure, full power on U.S. You don't really hear this type of hip hop too often in today's time. You know? But nonetheless, it do exist. We'll deal with this in just a second. We just letting the music play. Just letting y'all know. You know? Lyricism does exist. We're gonna talk about it. Let's not even waste time. Let's turn this down. What's good? What's good? What's up, G Star? What's the deal? What's the deal? So today I want to deal with, is hip hop merely another music genre or style of music? Or is it truly a culture, a way of life, a way of being, a path to ascension? Or just something that you listen to for entertainment purposes, right? And the reason I feel this is a valid question to ask, because I guess it'll make more sense as I go along. So let me just get into it. So what we're gonna do is let's switch the song up a little bit. Give me 1 second. We're gonna put on some hard shit, right? You know we gotta get into it. All right, so let's get into it. We're not gonna take up too much time. Just a question I want to ask. You know, it's been posed, and you know people are trying to figure out, is it real, or should I just put it in the entertainment category and leave it there, or can it be used as a tool for ascension? Well, of course, as y'all already know, we have to explore the history of hip hop. Now, I'm not going to do a thorough hip hop video. I feel that's a whole nother video. You can do a documentary on hip hop in and of itself. So this is more of an introduction than a documentary or, you know, one of those things, right? More of an introduction just for those who may not be aware of a couple things. Allow me to enlighten you. Now, first thing, and again, we're not going to go through the whole timeline. We're going to breeze through this as quickly as possible just to build a foundation, right? Now, hip-hop, you can say, was birthed in the early 70s, specifically November 12th, 1973. We're close to it. If that's not the actual date, it's close to it. Now, the first actual hip-hop record that was recorded was in 1979. So that means hip-hop was bubbling in the streets for almost 10 years, if not 10 years, before it even became mainstream. It was an underground phenomenon for a full decade before the rest of the world was aware of what hip hop was. So, just that fact alone will let you know that if the first record, hip hop record, which was, I believe, the Sugar Hill Gang, what was the song? It's the Sugar Hill Gang. The name of the song escapes me now. I think it was. It just came to me. Something Paradise. Something Paradise. Rapper's Delight. There we go. Rapper's Delight by Sugar Hill Gang. That was the first recorded hip hop song in 1979. So hip hop was bubbling. It's like I'm trying to say buzzing and bubbling at the same time. So hip hop had a good 10 years in the streets on an underground level. So for those of us who may just view hip hop as a music genre, but the first hip hop song was recorded in 1979, that's already given us insight into, obviously there was more to this than just the recorded music aspect, because that didn't come to literally the final stages. But the birth of hip hop as we know was in the dark, in the parks. You know, Africa Bambaataa, DJ Kool Herc, and there's many people unnamed, but those are just the well-known figures. You know, Grandmaster Flash, you know, Grandmaster Cass, the Furious Four, the Furious Five. I think it's the Funky Four and one more than the Furious Five, or the Jurassic Five. You know, just the old history back in the 70s, right? So we understand that if hip hop existed literally about 10 years before a record was ever produced and somebody was actually making money, and people started viewing like, oh, we can actually be rappers now, or we can actually be DJs, we can actually, you know, let me turn this down, we can take this art form to another level. Before that thought was even in the head of an entrepreneur, hip hop was already thriving before people were trying to become mainstream and rappers like we see today, because it was a local thing. You could be a local rapper, you can be a local graffiti artist, you can be a local DJ, you can be a local b-boy or b-girl. So, but nobody was thinking about, okay, I can make millions of dollars and make records that chart and be on top of the charts and all that. That type of thinking had not formulated at this time. There was nobody thinking about mainstream success because hip hop was not mainstream at this time. Hip hop was an underground phenomenon. So what actually was going on in the underground of hip hop? Since there was really nobody recording records, nobody was in the studio recording records until literally the last phases once it became mainstream. So what, for about 10 years, people were not recording records. Of course, there were jams, as they called it back in that day, and people were recording the jams, and the tapes, because they had tapes at the time, were being passed around and sold. But in terms of the actual somebody going into a recording booth and doing something professional, that didn't exist. Everything was being done live in the moment. So if you would have a jam tape, it would be a recording of a live performance, not nothing pre-recorded and not even professional, you know, as we know it today. That didn't come till later on. So as we start to explore the foundations and the makings of what we call hip hop, what was going on in the 70s to give birth to hip hop? We know the 70s to be the decade of revolution. This is fresh out of the civil rights movement, the 60s. But at this time, all of the leaders, I'm not going to say all of the leaders, but the big figures had now passed away. Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated in 69, just like Malcolm X in 65. So once we move into the 70s, now we move into the era of the Black Panthers and the Black Liberation. Now it's just warfare, right? What's up, 305 Capricorn? Now it's just warfare. And hip hop came from this. Hip hop came from the revolutionaries and the streets. Hip hop, as I've been speaking about lately, I've been speaking about the spirit of revolution, right? Hip hop, if you break down the numerology of hip hop, it breaks down to the number 9. And we've been talking about the number 9 for the whole month of September. So if hip hop breaks down to Mars, the spirit of revolution, the spirit of warfare, hip hop is a tool to combat the war that has been imposed upon us mentally, physically, and spiritually. What's up, Angel C's? Hip hop is a tool to combat the warship that we have to face on a daily basis. So before anybody was recording any records, making any type of big money, it was simply a tool to combat being in an impoverished area, living poor, check to check. This was a way to escape the madness of reality. All right, we're not going to shoot and kill each other. Let's do some graffiti. Let's have graffiti wars. Let's have MC wars. Let's have breaking wars. Let's have DJ wars. Let's stop being violent and be more creative, because as we become more creative, DJ versus DJ, MC versus MC, breaker versus breaker, this makes us better instead of you leaving somebody with a destroyed life and their family have to deal with, the rest of that. But we ain't dealing with that, right? So the violence was transmuted into creative warfare that made people better. Again, this is before people were making money. This is just strictly love. Hip hop was manifested out of love. Love, of course, also breaks down to the number 9, just like law. So love, law, and hip hop all break down to the number 9. This is why it's important to break down numbers and see what words correspond with the numbers. And the more words that you know that corresponds with a certain number, it reveals attributes of that number. So we already know 9 breaks down to Mars. We know that. But when you start breaking down words that break down to 9, then you can see even more detail. So we know number 9 is Mars. Mars is pretty much a concentrated flame, the energy of war. So the energy of war is love. We know that love can be war, just like hip hop can be war, just like law. There's war in the courthouse where you have to defend yourself against the system. These are all acts of war, expressions of the number 9, the energy of Mars. So hip hop is birthed out of the energy of war, warfare, revolution. Also, we know in the 70s, this is also the birth of the New Age movement simultaneously. So hip hop in the underground level, the streets was very in tune with the New Age and all of the philosophies available to them at this time. People were very conscious because you had no choice at that time, because you knew what was going on in the world. So it was mandatory to know who you was. It was mandatory to be consciousness. It was not optional. If you lived in the hood, anywhere around hip hop, you were conscious, because consciousness was being spewed out of the mouths of the poets, of the MCs. Why? Because everybody's infused with the New Age, because it was new at the time. It's different than today's times where we are more so rehashing that which has already been discovered. But we take it back to the 70s when all this was new. The whole age of Aquarius, that was the whole, when all that was fresh back in the 70s. So the streets was in tune with the New Age. There was no separation between the New Age, not necessarily the New Age movement, but just New Age thinking. There was no separation between New Age thinking and hip hop. They were one and the same. They were revolutionary thoughts. New Age is revolutionary because it breaks you out of the matrix that has been created for us and allows us to have spiritual and mystical experiences that otherwise will not be available because we're at a such low vibration, just not having the knowledge of ourselves. Right? Let me change the song. Give me 1 second. Right? So, hip hop and the New Age is inseparable. New Age concepts and hip hop blend together very well. This is why you always hear New Age concepts in hip hop. I'm not even talking about today's times. We can talk about just the 90s music and the 80s music, the 80s and the 90s, right? This has always been a part of hip hop because hip hop was there. When people first started talking about the New Age, or I'm going to say when it became popular, the New Age became popular in the 70s. It's not that that was the birth specifically, it just became popular in the streets in the 70s. Because again, we know that the occult goes back centuries. So we know that in the 70s, it just became popular amongst the urban community. So we would say that the New Age became popular amongst the urban community in the 70s. So if you were a part of the urban community in the 70s, you had some level of consciousness because everyone was in tune with our tiers of thinking. So if you were in the streets, you could run into the 5%ers. You could run into those who were labeled occultists, those who were labeled esoteric mystics. Everything that we have now, everything that we see now was available back then. It's just that people there again, it wasn't mainstream. So you truly studied these things and practiced these things because it was for the love. You were not doing it because of what it could give you, because there was really nothing to aspire to. You were not looking at hip hop as a way to transcend your reality in that way like we think about it now. Nowadays, anybody is just trying to make a record in their basement and put it on SoundCloud and expecting, or YouTube and expecting to blow up. Before, people cared about that. It was about making your name in the streets. That's where you found your fame, not on the internet, not in the digital revolution, but in the streets. So you had to have some type of skill set. You were not just walking around saying, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. Somebody could challenge you. As I just spoke about in the last video, it's about being challenged and tested. So during the times of the 70s, you were being challenged and tested because it was the decade of warfare. See, when we start to study these decades holistically and we understand what was going on at these times, so not just study hip hop, but you got to study the 70s as a whole and what was going on. Once you get a holistic view of what was going on during these times, you can understand why the people thought the way they thought and why they did the things that they did and why their minds was directed in the past it was directed in. So just imagine all this being new. You did not know how far it could take you. There was no ceiling at this time. So you were doing it just for the love. This is something that spoke to your heart. This is why you did it, right? What's up, back from hiatus? What's up, Phoenix Rising? What's up, Dominic? Let me see where we at. What's up, Dream Love? All right, just shouting everybody up. What's good? What's good? What's good? So, again, the question is hip hop just a music genre or a style of music, or is it a way of life rooted in the New Age concepts, which is actual fact? It's actual fact, right? Now that we get this, we can understand why hip hop is a tool for ascension and transcendence, because New Age concepts shape and mold your mind as you listen to hip hop. Nowadays, music is centered around psychedelics. Everybody like, oh, these youngins have lost their mind. No, they're speaking about psychedelics. Now, yeah, some of them are speaking about prescription drugs, which are not psychedelics, which give you no spiritual experience. It just it makes your body feel good, but you're not gonna have any type of breakthroughs. However, there is a lot of psychedelic talk, which is good because not only was that going on back then, but that's also going on today, and it's going to go on for the rest of history. This is nature. This is natural magic. All right? So, again, is hip hop just a music genre? You can say for other people it is. For those who didn't have to face the adversities of the hood, yes, it's just a music genre for them. It is. For those who just listen to hip hop for pure entertainment, to them it's just a music genre. But for those of us who live hip hop every day, why? Because we come from the struggle. That's all we know. This is where we come from. We were birthed into the hood. We came from that. You just was in it. Hip hop was just embedded it in your heart, regardless. It was a way of life before we called it something. Before we had a name for it. It was already culture. We just didn't have a name for it. Hip hop was just the title of what was already going on in the streets. When we named it hip hop, we just gave it form. We gave something form that was formless. Something that was formless was given form. Right? So therefore, what's up, Brianna? So therefore, ask yourself, for all my hip hop lovers out there, why is it that you love hip hop? Is it because the beats are good and the drums and the patterns? Or is it because it takes you to places beyond the physical reality? It is a tool of meditation. Now people are like, how am I supposed to meditate when motherfuckers are just talking about blasting motherfuckers and, bitches twerking and all that? How am I supposed to get into a meditation with all this ratchetness? Again, not only do you have a choice of what you listen to, but just because there's a lot of entertainment music out there doesn't mean that hip hop, the wholeness of hip hop is defined by the entertainment version of hip hop or the clean version of hip hop. Not clean as in no cuss words, but clean as in it's not going to really take you too deep in thought. It's more so party rap. Call it what you may. There's different sub-genres of hip hop as well. So we have control over the type of hip hop that we listen to. Therefore, since we have control over the type of hip hop we listen to, there's no need to complain about a type of music. You just don't listen to it. However, once we understand that it is certain types of hip hop that allows you to transcend physical reality, because there are those who understand the way sound works. True hip hop artists understand sound and understand the way that it affects your emotions, the ability to take you beyond what you thought was possible. So there are people today who exist who understand this science, who have a true love for hip hop, and that is embedded and reflected in their music. And of course, there is the party rap, which is fine. It's not supposed to be anything other than what it is. Listen to it when you want to have fun, when you're trying to turn up. So that also serves a purpose, because you're not really trying to listen to lyricism in the club. You're not really trying to listen to lyricism with your mate. You're all about to make love and you're going to put on some Eminem. Don't really work out, right? You may want to listen to something where the beat is a little bit more smooth, right? So there's a time and place for all forms of hip hop. It's just that people try to pigeonhole hip hop and act like the only type of music that's being created is the party rap. And that's the deception, to make people believe, oh, it's just a bunch of mumble rappers out here, which is not the case. Yes, in the mainstream, but the mainstream does not represent hip hop. The mainstream does not represent hip hop. It represents party rap, or rap. Not hip hop, but rap. The mainstream represents rap, not hip hop. Hip hop will not be on the mainstream radio. You have to search and find real hip hop. Real hip hop is not available to you. Real hip hop will not be placed in front of you anymore. It used to be that way. It would be albums coming out all throughout the year that were classical back in the 90s. Like damn near every album that was coming out was smashing. However, in these times, people made like yo, most of the music is garbage that comes out. Maybe so because it's motherfuckers in their household or in their basement trying to make hits, and it just don't work like that. You have to actually have some type of talent. You're really not trying to be a one-hit wonder. You actually are trying to establish a career. But nonetheless, to wrap it all up, is hip hop a culture or a music genre? Hopefully this video has helped you to answer that question. If you ask it or if you ever wonder, is there multiple dimensions to hip hop beyond just the music that's being created in today's times? And the answer is absolutely yes. Can it be a tool for meditation? Yes. Can it be a tool for ascension? Yes. Can it be a tool for transformation? Absolutely. You just have to be very picky about the type of hip hop that you choose to listen to instead of complaining about the mainstream rap. Just don't listen to it or listen to it selectively. But when it's time to get serious, you know that you can put on some real hip hop and activate some real magic. Hip hop should be used with your magic. And that's the point I want to close out here with. Instead of looking at hip hop as something separate to your magic or your spirituality, infuse hip hop with your spirituality and watch that motherfucker power up. Why? Because hip hop is deeper than what we can never imagine. Hip hop connects us to a source. So to fuse hip hop with your magic instead of something separate, like you embrace Eastern philosophy, but you don't embrace hip hop. It don't work like that. It's in the blood. It's in the DNA. Hip hop is a part of our being. We can't get away from it trying to, do yoga and talk about chakras and all this, kundalini. Hip hop is the true key. And I guarantee hip hop will still be around to the end of time. Why? Because hip hop didn't necessarily invent anything new. It reinvented everything. Hip hop reinvented music. Hip hop reinvented the world as a whole. Why? You can go, if you are hip hop, you can go anywhere on this planet and be accepted. That is the true power of hip hop. Hip hop allows us, people like me and people like you, to travel anywhere on this planet and be accepted because hip hop can see each other. As they say, real recognize real. Hip hop is all over this planet. So if you are hip hop, you will be embraced. There has not been any other time like this on the planet where hip hop as a culture is in all four corners of the planet. Everywhere, every inch of this planet, right? There's nowhere you can go and not find hip hop. So if you are true to hip hop, you can go anywhere on this planet and be embraced because you are true to your culture. I guarantee if you view hip hop out of America, you go overseas, take yourself to London, go to China, go to Africa, and see how they practice their hip hop, you will see it is truly a culture. It is truly a culture because they take their shit very seriously. Even more seriously than us. Because it's just older to us, it's still new to many, many people. They're still experimenting with it. It's it's game over for us. We done been there, done that. Not realizing that the whole world has been looking upon hip hop as the saving grace. Hip hop is bigger than Jesus. Trust me. We just truly don't understand the power. That's why hip hop has been weaponized to destroy us now. Because it is powerful. Hip hop is being used as a weapon against us in today's time. Not hip hop, excuse me. Rap is being used as a weapon. What can combat rap? Hip hop. Hip hop will combat all the bullshit that we have to face on a daily basis. Make hip hop a part of your everyday life beyond just going from song to song to song to song to song, something you just listen to in your ear pads or your ear pods or your car. or something you just listen to in your break. It is a way of life. Embrace the culture. And if you don't truly understand the culture, do your research about what does it mean to be hip hop. When you say I am hip hop, that means I am a part of the culture. I am original. I am connected with the source. Hip hop is a combination of all things fused together as one. Hip hop truly made the world one. Hip hop did that. Not no fucking politician. Hip hop unified the world. What else has unified the world? Christianity couldn't do it. Islam couldn't do it. What unified the world? Hip hop. Hip hop accomplished something that was never done before, that would not even be possible without hip hop. This is the true power of hip hop, and everybody knows it. That's why hip hop is like, it's a $1 billion industry, right? Even more than that. Hip hop generates more money than any music genre on the planet, probably more money than anything on the fucking planet. Hip hop music is a way of life. So don't get caught up with the rap. Get caught up with the hip hop and truly embrace the culture that's already within you. So this is my final point. The same way we embrace our spirituality, embrace hip hop. Make it one. Hip hop should not be over here and your spirituality is over here. They must be fused into one. Because hip hop is more connected to us than all the spiritual shit, I guarantee it. The spiritual shit is new. This hip hop is old. This hip hop has been with us since day one. This new age stuff is kind of, it's new age, you can say. Hip hop is old, but it has been fused with the new age. Why? Because hip hop can be fused with anything and make it last. It just so happened to be the new age at that time, which was synchronicity. Because guess what? We're still talking about it today, right? We're still talking about the new age and hip hop today, 50 years later. It's 50 years later, half a century later. And what still dominates? Hip hop. Hip hop has been dominated. The new age has been dominated since the 70s for 50 years. This has been the number one priority. Hip hop continues to increase. The new age movement continues to increase. Everything else is going like this. Hip hop, new age is going like this. Just be aware. Either you want to be on that uphill or you want to be on that downhill. You make the decision. So that's what it is. So we're going to get up out of here. I just wanted to give you all that jewel. Fuse hip hop with your spirituality. Don't look at it as something separate. If it truly speaks to you, it doesn't speak to you, it is what it is. Find another way. But I know hip hop speaks to most of us. And again, not rap. Hip hop speaks to all of us. Not rap. Fuck rap. Hip hop. Listen to rap as entertainment. Hip hop is a culture, a way of life. Explore what is truly yours. Hip hop is our birthright. Hip hop is our tool for warfare. The same way they use voodoo, the same way they used hoodoo, the same way they use black magic, dark magic. Hip hop is of that same vibration. So the same way you're tapping into the dark arts, the black arts, voodoo, all these things. Hip hop is the same. Hip hop is a spirit that you can tap into like every other fucking spirit. But again, we don't view it this way on purpose. To keep you out of it. To keep you out of your power. Well, fuck that hip hop. Embrace this spirituality over here. But fuck your shit. Embrace ours. Nah. Fuse it. Make that hit, that dark ass hip hop fuse with the spirituality. And you definitely will see a difference. Combine that dark with that light. With that love and light that we on, that love and light, that spirituality, combine it with the darkness of hip hop. Combine it, that light and that dark, as one energy, and see what happens. Because hip hop is definitely very dark, very sinister, right? Just listen to the lyrics, right? Nonetheless, I think I made my point. Y'all have a good day. I know this is the third video in one day, but when you fasting, you just got access to all this energy, so the information is just coming through me. So I'm just hitting the record button, while I'm in the moment, while I'm in the mood. So salute to everybody. Y'all take it easy. Blessings be, or blessed be to hip hop. Much love.